people here have grown to trust me, Ryan's mistress, and still they take me in. They finally brought me to Atlas. Without him, the people of Palo Square would give up. I asked him if he could lead the people in some kind of rising against Ryan.
Diane McClintock is one of the most unique women that Jack will come to know of during the events of the game BioShock. A loyal follower and romantic partner of Andrew Ryan, Diane's life would take a drastic turn one night when a party she was attending would be interrupted by a horrific bombing. This event changing the course of her journey in Rapture and leading her on a completely new path, one where she would find herself infatuated with the man who had attacked this party in the first place.
It was something awful they had to do to that little girl to get the atom, but we didn't start this thing. Ryan did. I can't wait to tell Atlas. He'll be so pleased.
The story of Diane McClintock as we know it begins with her connections to a man named Andrew Ryan and his conquest to create a city below the waves named Rapture. Diane would be one of the many who would follow this great man into the murk of the Atlantic, fully buying into all of his musings about the great chain of industry and how his city would be a sanctuary for the visionaries and hard workers of the world. To Diane, Ryan spoke of paradise, and in her eyes, that's exactly what Rapture was. Her romantic involvement with the powerful man, showing her only the most beautiful accomplishments that this city had to offer. However, while the marvels of the city were ever at her fingertips, Ryan himself was not. As could be expected, the responsibilities of running Rapture were immensely time-consuming. Ryan often having to cancel dates with Diane as he needed to oversee important decisions regarding Rapture's society. And while it had been this dedication to his dreams, this commanding vision that had attracted her to Ryan in the first place, it was also the thing that would incite a sour note into their relationship. Diane wanted to have a family, wanted a real romance with this man that she so admired. But Ryan had eyes only for his city, for his vision to be made manifest through his unwavering determination. And it would be on one of these nights, where work would keep the couple apart, that Diane would be introduced to the chaos that was bubbling just beneath Rapture's beauty.
Girl in Rapture. Silly enough to fall in love with Andrew Ryan. Silly enough. What happened? I'm bleeding. Oh God! What's happening?
While attending a masquerade ball to ring in the new year of 1959, a rebellious bombing would turn the festivities into an absolute horror show. Several partygoers would be injured or worse, with Diane herself being among them. Her proximity to the blast giving her several nasty injuries, including some facial scarring that would deform this once very beautiful young woman. Terrified at the prospect of being scarred for the rest of her life, Diane would seek the aid of a cosmetic surgeon by the name of Dr. Steinman, who, for his part, would try his best to return her to her former beauty. Unfortunately, though, despite his most attentive efforts, Diane would never be the same. Her looks were different, and that alone had left her unconfident in them. A fact that would only be exacerbated as, either due to unattraction or the civil war that had been laid at his feet, Ryan was now less attentive than ever. The New Year's Eve riots had completely changed everything, and being alone with no one to talk to about her trauma, Diane would begin to fixate on confronting those who had perpetrated such malevolence. From rumors and the few times she'd spoken to Ryan, she knew that the base of the rebellion was in the heart of Apollo Square, and with anger, she would decide to go there and tell them exactly what they'd done to her beloved Rapture. However, when she arrived, things were not at all what she'd expected.
I was so angry when I came down here, but my God, I had no idea. There's armed men all over the place. I saw a woman climb over the fence trying to escape. One of Ryan's guards pointed at her and she lit on fire. Just like that. What's happening here?
Apollo Square was a ghetto, Through the harshest of means, Ryan had attempted to lock it away from having any contact with the rest of the city. Bribing a guard, she would manage to infiltrate the hovel, but nothing beyond the blockade would reignite the burning anger she'd come down here with. Bodies lined the streets, a vision so common to its inhabitants that they ignored them entirely. And everywhere she looked, she would see tributes to a man named Atlas. The squalor of Apollo Square had shifted Diane's perception. She'd come down here to get some form of revenge for the attacks that had left her scarred. But the way these people were living was a torture far beyond anything she could have foreseen. The people here had been pushed beyond the limits of breaking, and yet somehow this Atlas figure was able to still bring them hope that they could turn it all around. This notion would intrigue Ryan's former lover, and she would stay in Apollo Square with the hopes of meeting this man who could inspire such spirits, eventually forming such a rapport with its inhabitants that they would grant her request. The man she'd come to know as Atlas would impress her from his very introduction, and she would once again become infatuated with the greatness that he conveyed. Diane would join Atlas's fight for liberation, becoming a respected fighter for the cause. However, as had been proven with Ryan, the secrets of great men are often just as incredible as their accomplishments. Diane McClintock is a woman who sought her purpose in the glory of great men, her tale being one of many who found awe in the magnitude of Ryan's vision, before being brutally beaten back down by the city's reality. Diane's life would be changed by the happenstance of wrong place, wrong time, and in a cruel twist of fate, it would be another unlucky turn of wrong place, wrong time that would determine her final resting place.
As Atlas, I got a new face, a clean record, and a fresh start. Now, it's time to take back Rapture.
It'll be so pleased.
Oh, Mrs. McClintock! What are you doing here? Let me just turn this over.